Hey everybody, I'm Kristen, and today on my AuthorTube channel we are talking about editing. Editing is so important. Editing is what will make the difference between a published manuscript and a not published manuscript. A traditionally published manuscript and maybe a self-published manuscript. So editing is super important, and we're going to talk about kind of a checklist of things that you can do to make sure that your work in progress is edited to the best of your knowledge before you submit it to an agent. Let's do this. The first thing you should know about me is that I'm not just talking and spewing hot air. My major in college was professional writing. Along with that came a lot of editing. I've edited published manuscripts, both traditionally and self-published. And I have a very strong eye for editing. I do a lot of ghostwriting, and with that comes editing. So editing is something that I am super familiar with. So don't just think I'm just kind of talking about something I don't know anything about. Editing is a huge part of my life. It's a huge part of my writing career, and it's super important. So the first thing that I do when someone asks me to take a look at their book, take a look at their work in progress, take a look at their chapter, is have them reread it first. I am happy to edit this for you, so happy. But what I need you to do first is reread it and make sure that it makes sense. When you reread it, sometimes those things just kind of pop out at you and you're like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't jive. And so my first tip for editing is just reread what you've written and make sure that it makes sense to you. That's so important. And a lot of times it's a step that we just miss. We think, no, I've already written it. It's good. Like, one thing done. I'm good. It just needs a little polishing and it'll be ready to go. But I promise you that's not the case. Just reread it and just make any tweaks for things that may be a little janky to you as the writer. The second thing is use punctuation. Use it correctly. This drives me crazy. Like, learn how to use a comma. Learn how to use a dash, an M and an N dash. Learn when a colon is appropriate. Learn when a semicolon is appropriate. Use all those things to your advantage. And so when you're asking someone to edit your book, your chapter, your whatever, do them the courtesy of making sure that your punctuation is correct. Otherwise, you might drive them a little bit crazy. I don't mean this to sound harsh. I just mean just grasp what good punctuation is and start using it. It's a really good thing. It'll carry you through your career, your writing, everything. So make sure that you're using proper punctuation. The third thing that I look for is different sentence starters. You don't want to do a bunch of, she said this, then she did this, she did this, her dress did this. Like, you want to vary it up and be like, she went to the water, the lady looked across the way and noticed that, like, I mean, I'm just making that up on the fly. But you want to really vary your sentence structure, and you want to vary the way that your sentences begin, because you don't want to bore your reader. A good editor is going to fix that and tweak that and call that out for you. But you can save your editor a lot of time and probably yourself a lot of cost if you take a look at the sentences and the way you start them and kind of rework the way that some of them are written. It'll go a long way, and you'll get ahead, I promise. The fourth thing that I think is really important is having an awesome vocabulary. You don't want people to read your book, have a fantastic story, but also then just use vocabulary of a 5-year-old. You want to make sure that you use good words, that the words you're using are applicable in the story, in the settings, that your characters are going to be using them. You don't want maybe an uneducated character to be throwing out words that a lawyer would be using. So make sure that the vocabulary that you use not only is awesome, but is also applicable to whatever characters are using those words. Pro tip here, if you're stuck, if you think that you need a word and you're not quite sure about it, thesaurus.com, best friend. They're not sponsored by this video yet, but thesaurus.com is a fantastic reference if you are looking to kind of zhuzh up your vocabulary. They give you antonyms, synonyms, really great resource. So make sure if you're looking to increase the vocabulary in your story, try thesaurus.com. I promise you will not regret it at all. The fifth thing is kind of a random one. It's using the right text format. And what this means is like, is your capitalization correct? Are you using the right tense? Are you using the right, just like intro paragraph stuff? It's just making sure it's a step above just good grammar, but you want to make sure that that stuff is highlighted in your book because it gets looked at, and that's what seems polished, and that's what people and agents and publishers are going to see and be like, oh, this is a good book. So make sure that that is completely taken care of too. The correct text type format. I also, you'll see me referencing this, I have a little cheat sheet checklist for you. I'm going to link it down below in this YouTube video. So print that out and just keep it next to your computer as you write, just so that when you are looking for an editor or you're in the editing phase, just make sure that these 6 things are like taken care of and in the front of mind. Last one is, I think, the most important, and it applies to writing, to editing, to everything. Is this my best effort? If it's not your best effort and you're just kind of trying to pass it off on an editor and see what they say, I recommend against that. You really want to do your very, very best. Write like no one's business. Tell your story with all the gumption that you have. Do it well. And once it's as good as you can get it, then pass it to an editor and then see how they can help you make it better. So anyway, I hope these 6 tips were helpful for you as far as editing goes, and I hope that the checklist down below is also helpful. Let me know in the comments if you like it, if more resources like this would be helpful, and I will see you in my next video.